All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Monday, September 16th. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat. So we had some new releases open up this weekend, and we had some surprises at the top. Some stuff we didn't expect to happen has happened, and we are going to go through all of it. So, Clint, could you give us a very important plow for the box office weekend of Friday, September 13th, 2024?
Number one, Beetlejuice made $51.6 million, down 54%. It has no theater change. It didn't lose anything. It made 188 total million dollars in its first 2 weekends of release. Number two, Speak No Evil made $11.5 million in its first weekend. Number three, Deadpool and Wolverine made $5.2 million, down 26%. It lost 325 theaters. It's at $621.4 million in its eighth weekend of release. Number four, Newbie, Am I Racist, made $4.7 million in its first weekend. Number five, Reagan made $2.9 million, down only 39%. No theater change. It's at $23.3 million in its third weekend of release. And man, right outside the top five, our boy, Dave Bautista, The Killer's Game from Lionsgate, made $2.6 million in its first weekend of release. Oofa doofa. That is your top six.
Oofa doofa D for Dave Bautista. I mean, let's just get that out of the way here. This Killer's Game. I mean, we've said it. Batista will be the first professional wrestler to be nominated for an Academy Award for acting. That will happen. Won't be for the Killer's Game. I mean, he's had giant hits and it's part of the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy, but is Dave Bautista more of an actor's actor, more of a art house actor, and isn't going to be a box office draw? I mean, is that what we're seeing here with the Killer's Game? Is he's not going to be The Rock. He's not going to have that box
thank
office
God.
run.
I mean, thank God he's not going to be The Rock for many reasons, because I think Batista, from what I know, pees in toilets.
Not in Voss water bottles. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one plus in the Batista column. I think this is overreaction. I think he's a guy that can have a hit action movie to his name as the star. This was just a cheapy Lionsgate, film that people were saying it's a John Wick sort of ripoff. It has that whiff of a wannabe John Wick, which I think people are getting sick of. It just wasn't the right movie to break him out as a lead in his own actioneer. I have faith in him that he could do something. I mean, he could have a Liam Neeson type thing where he has his nonstop and what was the big one for him that really put him on the map with action? Taken.
Yeah.
I believe in Batista. I believe Batista could have that, but I think you could do both. Someone like Liam Neeson, who still occasionally will do something supporting,
like a Rob Roy or something. Yeah.
Be a genuine actor. And yeah, so I'm not selling my Batista stock.
Okay, so you don't think Dave Bautista is less on the path to being an action star and more on the path to being a Stephen Root, a Steve Buscemi, a character actor type that doesn't carry the top of a movie? Like, you don't think because it could be
I think
that.
both. I
Root.
think both. Okay. I think he's a guy who can do both.
Okay, so he could be Gerard Butler and he could be David Paymer.
I mean, that's the thing, is this guy's talent is unprecedented. So you're having a hard time thinking of who Batista's going to be. How about he's Dave Bautista? How about you stop thinking about him in the terms of Rock and these other
Jerry Butler,
and Jerry Butler and Steve Buscemi, and start thinking this is a one of a kind talent, that we won't be able to categorize.
Right. I mean, Maybe some advice for Dave Bautista is to not work with Lionsgate again anytime soon, because that's probably the bigger problem with the Killers game. You know, when we had Jeff Bock on for the fall preview double-sized episode, we talked about how Lionsgate pretty much has a movie coming out every week for the next 3 months.
Mhm.
And none of them seem like they're going to do anything at the box office. Megaflopolis, of course, coming up in another 2 weeks. They are putting low rent garbage out in the theaters. Whether this is garbage out, we're not critics, huh? But they're
Uh-huh.
definitely putting out movies that they're not expecting to do much of the box office. Something that was mentioned in Anthony D is for Disney D'Alessandro's must read Sunday Deadline article is that is Lionsgate going to hurt their relationship with movie theaters by putting out bomb after bomb? Like, do you think something like Killer's Game, followed by 5 more weeks in a row of single digit openers for Lionsgate, is that the type of thing that they become the studio that cried bomb and they start having a harder time getting movies into theaters? Like, are we headed there with Lionsgate because of this run?
Well, that's okay, so that's the thing because we are proponents of e everything should go to theaters in the sense
Yes.
of if they're ready for theaters, right? I mean,
Yes.
Hocus Pocus 2 theaters, right? Like
Yes.
that sort of
Yes.
movie, that goes to theaters. Some of the movies that HBO
Disenchanted should
dis
have went to theaters.
yeah, so, those sort of movies, if you're ready for the theater, there still
Mhm.
is a group of straight to PVOD, which used to be straight to VHS, used to be straight to DVD, straight to Redbox,
Right.
action
Straight to the
movies,
bodega shelf. Yep.
yes, that are not ready for theaters. They're just
Mhm.
not going to make the money that they would in other streams. Those
Mhm.
exist. So we don't want to be such zealots that we're like, no, anything that's a movie should play in a theater. You do have to have some quality control because there's
Right,
always been
right,
a history since home video and home media became a thing of we're making this for that.
right, right,
And
right.
I think Lionsgate needs to know what should be PVOD or Streamo and know what should be theatrical. And I think for them is don't play the Streamo game, PVOD these things. Like
Yes.
that's the thing
Yes.
is make it like DVD, VHS. If this movie was not ready to be in theaters and was not good enough to be in theaters, make it PVOD and you can charge $25 to rent this film
Yes.
and
Yes.
make it premium because action heads, Batista fans will, Scott Atkins fans
Yep, yep, yep.
will rent this movie at a premium price. And then you don't denigrate your brand at the theater because
I
they knew that you curated what you send to theaters and what you send to PVOD.
Yeah, I think you probably don't get Dave Bautista to sign on to this if there's no theatrical component and and it's not made for streaming. Obviously, he will do a Netflix movie. He did the zombies rob a bank or rob a casino movie a couple of years ago, but he is not going to do or probably do too many just straight to PVOD movies. So you probably don't get him. I think the problem is Lionsgate having this movie come out surrounded by 8 other movies going into theaters that are going to
Mhm.
bomb and should have gone straight to PVOD. Whereas the Killer's Game could have been their one theatrical movie for 4 weeks and they put everything they have into promoting this
You
rather
put the
than
muscle
spreading
behind it.
themselves so thin with all these other sure to be bombs that are coming out the next few weeks and are sure to start making these theater owners say, oh, wait, Lionsgate's on the phone. Just tell them I'm not home.
Mhm.
Let it go to the machine. Listen, I don't know if a lot of the younger listeners are going to totally understand this reference, but Gen Xers like myself, we remember
Having
phone
trouble
machines
remembering because 'cause you're not Gen
because
X.
I'm
You're
so
having
much a Gen Xer. I'm so old, which on this show is a positive thing. But you would say you get someone calling up, and maybe it was just in my house, we'd never pick it up, always let it go to the machine, and then decide, do we want to pick it up mid-message? And I feel like that is where Lionsgate is going to have these theater owners like, let it go to the machine, and if we hear it's Lionsgate, we're not picking up the phone. We're not picking up the phone because they're just sending us bomb after bomb. Yeah, I think Batista is so loved by audiences, and he seems so well liked in the industry. This isn't going to hurt him that much, but you do want to see him have that breakout hit sometime soon. You know, you don't want to go too many years before that because they will move on. And he's a great actor, so he'll always get the Steve Buscemi type parts, the Harvey Keitel type parts, but you're only going to get so many shots to have the big breakout action movie.
But this is his first, isn't this his first shot at a theatrical star after Guardians 3? I don't think there's been anything else that's been released with him as the star.
True.
So we can't, I mean, The Rock got so many chances. And again, I don't want to call him The Rock. I don't want to call Batista The Rock, or he's trying to do the same Rock trajectory, because The Rock does not work with auteurs, does not want to be an actor, wants to be he wants to be a spokesperson, basically.
Yes.
He wants to
be an Instagram account.
He wants to be a brand, and he is a brand. But I don't think Batista wants to be a brand, because cattle get branded.
Right.
And Batista ain't no cattle.
Right. So
and I say that with all due respect to cattle.
Yes, of course. Listen, if you are currently a cattle or a cowboy with his cattle listening to us right now, please take no offense. Please take no offense. Continue listening. Continue putting the earbuds in the cattle's ears, because we sue them or whatever the cattle needs. You know, please do not be offended, cattle, when we compare you to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So, Killer's Game. I mean, do we want to? Let's hop up to the top. I think let's get to Beetlejuice. 54% drop and made $51.6 million.
Great hold.
I think this is go for it. Is this best case scenario?
Yeah, because when you're talking about the Warner Brothers prestige horror slot in September, which is where this opened, you see a lot of those movies dropping 60%, stuff like that, which is great. I mean, when a movie opens big and you get a 60% drop, that's not anything to be worried about. It's when you have a Morbius opening and then it drops 71%, like, know, or, when you see a 54% drop for what's ostensibly a sort of horror-esque movie, that is always good.
Yes.
And the word of mouth, I think, on this is really great. No theater change. Obviously, that's awesome. It's dominating theaters. I think this sets this up to keep on rolling, because when you see a movie like this only drop this low, it opens to over 100, and then the second weekend is 51, which, like we've said many a time, if that was the opening that this movie got like 6 months ago, we're talking about it in 6 months ago, this thing is going to have a second weekend of 51, or it's opening to 51, we'd say that's awesome. This movie's opening to 51.
Yes, that is the big thing. 6 months ago, or when Beetlejuice was greenlit, they would have been happy with a $51 million opening, and that's what they got in the second weekend. So this is a full-on success. The reviews were good enough, and I think the general audience response is probably in line with what we were thinking, which was it was fun. It was nowhere near worst case scenario of this movie. It's not going to be the best case version of a Beetlejuice. It's not Maverick in this sense. This is probably not going to get a best picture nom, but it was more than fun enough to have great legs for the rest of the month. The audiences seem very happy with this movie. And then if you're
I feel like spooky season has started early. Are you seeing this?
Well,
people, I think people are, I don't know if maybe I forgot what last year was like, but I'm seeing a lot of the spookiness happening early.
Well, I think obviously, all culture flows from box office. And the fact that these last 5 to 10 years, we've had horror movies opening in September, I think has set the tone for culture in general
Mhm.
that you got to start Shocktober in September. The It Chapter 1 and 2 movies, the Nun movies, all opening early September. Listen, last year we had a Saw movie which have always opened October, other than Spiral, the Book of Saw, open in May. We had a Saw movie open at the end of September.
Yeah.
So I think people don't want to be surprised anymore. They want to be ready. And so, just in general, people are just getting into Halloween earlier because the Halloween box office has started earlier.
And then Christmas always creeps up a little bit more each year, it feels like, too. So you wanna get enough time to have a
Yes.
full spooky season before in mid-October, you're talking about Christmas.
I mean, I think the big loser in all of this is Thanksgiving. I
Uh-huh.
think Thanksgiving, in a lot of ways, has become. I mean, it's become a worthless holiday because it's Halloween starts in September, Christmas starts no later than November 1st. That's it. Those are your two things that matter. Thanksgiving doesn't matter, but Halloween matters more than ever because we're getting Halloween movies this early. Did Speak No Evil capitalize on that? Speak No Evil, big horror movie, came out September 13th. It got the Friday the 13th. I think that's okay. Let's start with that.
Mhm.
Did Speak No Evil capitalize on opening on a Friday the 13th? Because I didn't see that really as a big part of the marketing.
That's the thing about this movie. It's a thriller, not really a horror movie. I
Mm-hmm.
I I think that's the issue with it. If you really could have pushed the Friday the 13th aspect, if there was some slasher in this or some one evil character that is the character in this. It's more of a thriller than it is a horror movie, and I know that's
Mm-hmm.
sort of parsing things very small, but
Right.
it had a more elevated mindset, I believe, than something that was gonna be dumb fun.
Okay.
And
Because it.
so,
Mm-hmm.
what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say it opened.
So, Pat was gonna say something about how this thing opened, but, um, yeah, I think
So
the
it
th
opened. Mm-hmm.
no, you go.
It opened to 11.5 million. Fine, not fine, but
Mhm.
it's lower than I thought it would be. I thought it would do 20 million. It didn't overperform. Didn't come anywhere near overperforming. So was it too elevated? Was it presented as too elevated? And should it have been dumbed down and presenting the McAvoy character more as here's your monster. Here's your big new character and just dumb it down.
I think Speak No Evil is a bad title. I think
Okay.
it immediately makes you think it's highbrow,
Mhm.
and I'm sure it's already been used before, but, like, call it Slaycation,
Mhm.
call it
Mhm.
Bloody B&B,
Mhm.
call it, call it, you know, our dickhead travel companions, whatever you wanna call it. Just don't call it
Okay.
Speak No Evil. It's too, like, biblical it's, like, too it alludes too much to highbrowness in a way that I also think then unless this movie is completely different than the trailer, which we think is a possibility, it's just these people are bad and we have to spray them with hairspray and hit them with a frying pan. It's like, that's the thing. If this just becomes that, then
Mhm.
Speak No Evil is too highbrow of a name for this.
Yes, yes. Which yeah, no spoilies, and I haven't seen this movie, but I'm pretty confident now that that is what this movie does devolve into.
Mhm.
Is they're over there, we got to run over here, we got to hide, push someone down the stairs. I think that is basically the last 20 minutes of this movie. Again, haven't seen it yet, but that is the vibe I'm starting to get. Yeah, I mean, you look at McAvoy's big horror hit, and it was a movie in which he was a horror villain who had split personality disorder, and the name of the movie was Split. It
Yeah.
was as simple as it gets.
Call this Stabbin' Cabin.
Yes. If this was called Stabbin' Cabin, and McAvoy was playing the stabber, and you got some subway posters and character posters, and it's James McAvoy is the stabber in Stabbin' Cabin, this probably gets to $17 or $18 million opening weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you want a fun movie on Friday the 13th because Friday the 13th is a campy day.
Yes.
And this wasn't campy enough. I mean, I guess his performance he really eats the scenery, chews on the scenery, eats it, digests it, and then dookies it all over the screen is what I've heard many critics say. But still, doesn't feel campy.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely in the end doesn't feel that fun. And Friday the 13th is a fun it's a fun horror holiday. So yeah, and I think, we'll talk about in the weekend preview next weekend, getting a start like this, 11.5 million. I think this is now just going to disappear off the face of the earth the next few weeks.
Dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's no breakout character. There doesn't seem to be any buzz of some kind of must-see scene coming out of this. Because that is the thing with the original. The ending of the movie is the ending of the foreign original version of Speak No Evil is where all the buzz comes from. And I'm pretty sure this movie is not doing that ending. So there is no element of this that ends up being special where people are going to keep talking about it.
Yeah, they're not going to speak about this movie. I mean, they're not going to speak evil about this movie. They're just not going to talk about it, know?
Yeah.
So let's say demos. Let's see demos really quick. Mostly female, 51%. 38% of the audience over 35, 37% Caucasian, 31% Latino Hispanic, 16% Black, and Asian American 10%. So, yeah.
The scary thing about those demos you just read is that this is a horror movie and this is such an older audience. That is really... That's the reason that this didn't open bigger. It's the reason why this is going to fall off the face of the earth. And, it's a premise, I guess, that doesn't appeal to young people because it is about two couples meeting up on a vacation and then going to the other one's house afterwards. If you are a young person, you're not going on vacation. No one has. They have no money to go anywhere on vacation. They're going to a rooftop dance party. That's where they're going, and they don't own a house to invite another couple over.
Just rubbing it in their face that these are homeowners.
Exactly right. That's what this movie does. Is saying, come look at the glorious life of people who could afford to own their own homes. And that is not an appealing premise for young people at all. Because they're basically like, hey, I met this great couple. I'm going to let them crash on our couch that doesn't even pull out.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's horror that's
in the room where we already have a roommate in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there is horror that's just too horrifying for people to want to think about. And the inability to own anything in this climate for somebody who is in their mid-20s or a teen or a tween coming up and knowing that people in their 40s can't even buy a house, that sort of dread, they don't want to think about that.
Right. It's not fun horror. Dancing robot Megan, that's fun horror. But
it would have killed McAvoy to fucking dance in this movie. I mean, maybe he does, but he didn't dance well enough that it went viral. So
Right. There's nothing that appeals to a younger person here. There's no TikTok dance. There's homeowners. It's almost a premise that if you are under 25, I don't even know if this premise would make sense to them that people who own a home invite other people who own a home to come over and stay in their home. Like, what is that? Okay, wait, what? Where does this take place in so there's a period piece, you're telling me?
Yeah, it's a period piece or it's science fiction.
Right, right, right. So yeah, that was the big inherent flaw here is younger people do not want to go see a movie about homeowners. They don't get it. And yeah, so this will fall off the face of the earth. Without any young people being into a horror movie, there's no future for this movie. So here's something I think we could take away or think about for what we're looking at the box office right now. Clayton, is comedy back? Because the number one movie in America 2 weekends in a row, Beetlejuice, that is a comedy, a blockbuster comedy. And then number 2 or number 3, Deadpool and Wolverine, it's a superhero movie, but it is a comedy, right? For whether you find it funny or not, it is a comedy. And then number 4, the newbie that surprised us, made 4.7 million at the box office. Am I Racist, which is billed genre-wise as a comedy. So before we get into the specifics of that movie, is comedy back at the box office? Is that the takeaway here, or is that not the takeaway?
I mean, the fact that the 4:30 movie is nowhere to be seen on this chart.
Okay,
makes me believe that I think you're a little quick to say comedy is back.
So we have no numbers on this 4:30 movie from Kevin Smith. It is not on the numbers. It was not talked about on Deadline. Kevin Smith did not tweet it out. I haven't listened to any of the probably 7 or 8 podcast episodes he's released this morning, but I don't think he discussed the opening weekend numbers of the 4:30 movie. So you're right. That is a problem with my theory that comedy is back, is that the 4:30 movie didn't open in the top 5 this weekend. I am not seeing it. I mean, some of these movies, something called The Critic from Greenwich Pictures made $200,000. That charted. Longlegs is still in there. Something called Tokyo Cowboy. And
I think
Music for Mushrooms. These are all movies that the numbers are listing, and we are not seeing the 4:30 movie.
But it also is only Sunday afternoon. I think the counting, I mean, I think they need to leave some time for the cast of the comic book men to do the counting of the tickets sold.
Right.
Because since their show got canceled, Kevin Smith, he's a loyal guy. He's going to give them something to do. Puts them in a room, is like, here's the cash, count it.
Right.
Here's the ticket stubs, count them.
Right.
And then do some division. And I think that's the comic book men are probably not doing that yet. And that's probably going to happen late Sunday evening, early Monday morning, possibly. I mean, let's give them till Tuesday, because I just don't think that they're reliable as workers.
Yeah. Then now that they are full-time accountants. Yeah. So I bet you that's true, that the 4:30 movie, all of the accounting is done by hand, is paper and pencil. I don't think any of it is digital. So that it could be a week or so before we get the opening weekend numbers on the 4:30 movie. We did not end up seeing it. We didn't see it.
Yeah. So I do think, though, I mean, we have to asterisk this top 5.
Okay.
Because we could get those 4:30 movie totals, and that could be the number 1 comedy in America. I mean, I think right now, to christen this Am I Racist comedic documentary as the number 1. Well, I guess we didn't say it was the number 1 comedy, because
Beetlejuice is,
and it's the number 3 because Deadpool and Wolverine would be a comedy. Right?
It's the number. Listen, on their advertising this weekend, Am I Racist? Their commercials, probably during the NFL today, are going to say the number one new comedy in America.
Yeah,
And
and that is they need to asterisk that because we don't know the 430 movie numbers is what
we
I'm
don't.
saying.
We don't. But you get those. I think you got to get those commercials on the air anyway. It's not about playing nice. You get those commercials out on the air, and that's on Kevin Smith for not getting the comic book men to get the numbers in on time, if that's the case.
Yeah.
So as we stand now, that is at number 4. Am I Racist? Number 1 new comedy in America. Was texting with our our frequent guest, good pal, podcast Jesus, Kirk Minihan, and he had a sharp take on this.
Mm-hmm.
He said that Am I Racist hurt Reagan more this weekend than John Hinckley.
Yeah.
So that was his take, that the money Am I Racist made this weekend, that is money. That is the reason why Reagan came in number 5 when you were predicting it might have slid in number 3 this weekend. And do you agree with that premise? Do you think that Am I Racist overperformance this weekend hurt Reagan movie, and in some ways hurt the reputation of Ronald Reagan himself?
I mean, I don't think hurt the reputation at all, but hurt the movie's box office 100%. When you look at this Reagan movie, number 5, made 2.9, only down 39%. Right? This Am I Racist guy is self-described conservative, right? Whatever. We're not going to get into politics, But to put out your movie the same weekend when Reagan is having a great run,
right,
cannibalizing his box office, this bozo is stealing the jelly beans out of Bonzo's mouth.
Wow. Okay.
And I think that is, if you're the base who's going to see I Am a Racist, I would question this guy and be like, why would you go up against Ronnie? Why would you go up against the Gipper? Because when we talk about at the theater, there's, room for everything. And a lot of times movies don't cannibalize each other. This directly cannibalized Reagan.
Okay.
And I agree with Kirk's take is that this is Hinckley level.
This is Hinckley level. Wow.
I don't understand how this guy's supposed fan base could stand for this.
Wow. Okay. So because this is the third weekend of Reagan in theaters. Yeah, this was Reagan's third weekend. So you think he needed to give him at least 2 months before you open Am I Racist?
Yeah.
2 months. Okay. That is he gave him 2 weeks.
Ronnie's a steamroller. That's the thing is, and people would say, well, he didn't know that this movie would do as well as it did. He didn't know he'd be stopping Reagan's momentum. Well, he had no faith in Reagan then?
Wow.
So this guy had no faith in the Gipper?
Right.
That to me would make me question his sort of his bona fides.
Okay. So
what's he attempting to do here?
Oh, so you think the release
this little
of this was
documentary
to quell the movie, to quell the Reagan movie altogether?
No, it's just a lack of respect for the Reagan movie. It's just a complete and total lack of respect for the Reagan movie, which if I feel like these have the same audiences. Okay. So why would you make the audiences decide here? If you put out I Am a Racist, this funny documentary, quote unquote.
Okay.
After Ronnie goes on his 2-month tear and ends up with $45 million at the box office for Showbiz Direct, which is a company nobody knows and is making a mark with this movie. Then you put out Am I Racist? And then you get your big opening. You get an even bigger opening. You get even more. Because the people who go to see Reagan are like, I want to see another movie. I've finally gotten around to seeing Reagan. I loved it. Maybe I'll give this thing a shot.
Okay. So, and do you think there's any maybe defense of, well, Reagan movie. This is a comedy, and they're two different things. Though, I mean, I think my answer to that would be
it had both.
Reagan had both. The John Voight performance in Reagan, I think, is as funny as anything
When
that is in
yeah,
any mainstream comedy. So Reagan obviously was looking to also satisfy comedy fans. And then they
when
come in with this comedy going after the same audience in its third weekend. That's the big problem. It's third weekend. Come on.
when Reagan accidentally kills that
Hmm.
kid's goldfish,
Yes. Yes.
and he stops everything, he's got meetings, he's got things he's got to do,
Right.
and he's like, I got to write this kid a note. And the person who wants him to go where he wants to go is, you gotta come. We're on a schedule. And Nancy says, no, he needs to write a note. When Ronnie wants to do something, he does it.
Hmm.
And that was like a funny premise, that
Huge
Ronnie
laugh in
walks
the theater.
in and he sees the dead goldfish after being told, this kid loves this goldfish. Will you take care of it? And Ronnie's like, of course I will. Of course I will. And then you see that thing belly up and you're like, oh, no, what's Ronnie
Yeah.
going to do? He writes a note. I mean,
Yeah.
that is, you know, there was a level of comedy to drama in that movie
Yeah.
that I think satisfies that category.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that this is Hinckley level. This is Hinckley level in terms of releasing Am I Racist on the third weekend of Reagan. Um, Here's the thing though, we did not predict this to be in the top 5. So we were much lower on this movie. Um, you know, is this now a Borat level character that they have
Hey, part
here?
of Borat. Borat was a fucking huge success. This thing
Okay.
made $4 million.
So you don't think this is Borat? You don't see this is not Wayne's World. This is not that level of comedy hit. You don't think they've created uh a new character at that level.
Listen, it's fine for what it is. It had the biggest opening of a documentary, I think, in the past 10 years or something. Did I read that correctly in Deadline?
I think it's a big documentary for the last few years, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, it had the highest opening. Okay, so behind Angel Studios After Death
Mhm.
and Born in China
Okay.
by Disney. Those are the openings that it's behind. So it opened well, but
Mhm.
this feels to me like a one weekend wonder,
Not
where
Austin Powers.
not Austin Powers, but I think Ronnie rebounds. I think if you
Okay.
can take anything from this, is that this is just a bump on the road, and he's not going to not to, steal a Ronnie joke and to steal a Kirk line from the episode, the Reagan episode. He's not going to let this documentary filmmaker's youth and experience, he's not going to hold it against him.
Okay. Okay. Um, do you think this movie will be a big enough hit that it's going to spawn a franchise? Do you think there will be an Am I Racist 2 TOO and you're going to get other conservative figures jumping in there wanting to see if they are also racist? Will this be a franchise?
I think at best he spins it off into a TV show.
Oh, wow. Okay. Or
I think at
maybe an
best.
animated series.
Yeah, yeah. I think at best. I think at best.
All right. Well, listen, we'll be following that battle at the box office. Am I Racist and Reagan are, neck and neck. And it'll be interesting next weekend if Reagan, he made the comeback after the Hinckley assassination attempt.
Yes, yes.
He made
Yes,
the comeback.
exactly.
He made the
So,
comeback. Does he have another comeback in him? After what was this box office assassination attempt?
I mean, Hinckley came at him with bullets and he survived, and this guy's coming at him with bon mots.
Okay. He's coming at him with documentary film cameras.
Yeah. I mean, and we all know, obviously, when we're talking about forms of entertainment, next to stand-up comedy, and puppetry of the penis, documentary filmmaking is down there at the bottom.
Well,
And
and
Reagan,
especially mhm.
especially comedy documentaries, Reagan is a film. It's a genuine film, and I think it will win out at the box office compared to something like this.
We'll see. Do you think that if he were alive, Morgan Spurlock, aka the McDonald's guy, would have seen this opening weekend and been upset that he didn't think of this premise?
Morgan Spurlock, who I realize just died this year, correct?
Just recently dead, very recently dead. Did you also know that there was a sequel to Super Size Me? What is more surprising to you, that Morgan Spurlock died this year, or that he did make a sequel to that movie?
I'm not surprised he died, so I would say there's a sequel.
Okay. Yeah. I think if he had lived to see this Am I Racist movie come out, he would have been kicking himself.
Well, his thing would be, can I be racist for a month? Because that's his whole spiel. It's like, it wouldn't be a question. It'd be, how racist can I get in a month?
Right. Can I be racist? Every time someone presents me with the opportunity to be racist, I have to be racist. That would be the Morgan Spurlock version.
Yeah.
So, and that probably would not have done as well. He had his moment. Morgan Spurlock had his moment. So I don't think his version of Am I Racist would have come in number 4 at the box office. It would have been a full-on specialty release. All right. So anything else we want to go over on this weekend's box office before we get into the mailbag?
Open up that mailbag, bro.
We got some, we're behind because we've had so many huge guests the last few weeks. And so we fall behind the mailbag. So let's go through. This is an older one, but we got a great email from Andy letting us know right before Reagan came out. Did you know this, Clayton, that there was a NASCAR co-promotion with Reagan? Andy tells us a big old picture of Dennis Quaid on the hood, side paneling. Apparently is at the race, might sneak its way into the broadcast. So there we go. There was a Reagan specialty NASCAR car that was in the Daytona race, I guess. Did you?
Awesome.
Are you
totally awesome?
Are you a race car guy?
No.
Do you like when they go vroom vroom?
No. I could care less about cars.
Okay. But yeah, there is Dennis Quaid as Ronald Reagan, fully decked out NASCAR race car there. Should they have done this with public transportation? Should we have gotten fully designed subway cars with Reagan's face, or NASCAR was probably the way to go?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a stacks play, so they're only going to I mean, nobody if there was I don't think I don't think the coasts were where that movie was aimed for. So
okay.
I think if they were going to put him on anything else, it'd be like a thresher or some farm equipment.
Yes. The thing is, you want those vehicles to be televised the way NASCAR cars are. And I don't know if there are thresher competitions that air on, ESPN2 the way NASCAR races do.
I don't know about ESPN2, but I think there's a few other ESPNs. I think there's so I think you could have something like that.
Okay, but yeah, thank you, Andy, for sending us pictures of this Reagan NASCAR. We've been talking about, do we want to, I've been pushing for covering international box office, and we did get an email from a wannabe oh boy, Luis, who did say, I think mentioning an international box office run would bring a larger understanding of a movie's performance. Maybe you can invite an English-speaking, non-American guest to bring insight from time to time. Not sure if that would be a stretch. Now, a different topic, Leon does say...
Wait, is it Leon or Lewis?
It is... Oh, I'm sorry. It is Lewis. I read the wrong name. It is Lewis. Lewis. Thank you, Lewis, for that email. Lewis also says, please make an Instagram. I refuse to use TikTok or Twitter, but I want to support your social sphere. I'm constantly on Instagram, so would follow it in instant. Clayton, we've been hearing a lot of that.
Yes,
Lewis
Pat.
now is saying, make an Instagram. I think we got to do it.
We've
I
had
think that's going to happen.
We've had a virtual ask, and we've had multiple in-person asks for
Yep.
IGs.
We got a email from wannabe oh boy Connor. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about how Channing Tatum's career resurrection should be in a movie where he wears a different shirt every day because he doesn't want to do laundry, and that should be called 365 Shirts. So Connor wrote,
Or
shirt
off my back, which was,
yes, that was what I suggested. So Connor did say the Channing Tatum movie should officially be titled 365 Shirts because it leaves room for a sequel called 366 Shirts, which takes place during a leap year. What do you think of that, Clayton?
I love that. I mean, I think what we came upon was shirt off my back, 365 shirts, because then you get the ability to have the sequel. That's great. I mean, that's great. I mean, it's 21 in Jump Street, 22 Jump Street. It's great. I mean, he's had success with a similar sort of pattern of titling. And so I think that is brilliant by Connor.
Yep. Great. Thank you, Connor. Got an email from Troy from Tulsa. Wannabe oh boy Troy from Tulsa. Of course, listen, I love going country hopping. I love getting my passport checked. So Troy wrote in to say, you may have heard by now, but there's a national parks passport where you get your book stamped at 431 different national park units. So you have no more excuses to leave the country to get a passport stamped. Go get one, USA.
There we go. Will you do it, Pat?
I love getting things stamped. So I may get that anyway, but I would still want to get that national parks passport stamped in Europe because I just love their ink. You know, they've just got some just classy ink that you're not going to get at Yosemite, for instance. But I would still love to get that passport, the booklet itself, but I'll get it stamped overseas.
I hope they ask you why you want it, and when you tell them that, they reject you.
I mean, they're not going to ask that. They're going to assume that I want to go to the national parks.
I'll call ahead.
Of course, I have no interest in.
I'm calling ahead. I'm going
to say calling ahead.
I'll give them your Christian name, your full Christian name. I'll be like, if this guy tries to get a parks pass, he's going to take it straight to Europe. Do with that information what you will.
Wow. All right. So that's where we're at now is we're calling customs on one another on the BO Boys. It's not
customs. It's not customs. It's the park system. It's one of the greatest things that America has going for it is these great national parks of ours.
All right. Well, I will get the booklet. So
good luck.
Clayton, James Earl Jones passed away. We got an email from wannabe oh boy Jason. Jason says, gents, rewatched Field of Dreams this week in remembrance. He was such a great person on and off screen. Real quick, what is your faves of James Earl Jones? So R.I.P. James Earl Jones. Is he one of your guys, James Earl Jones? Is he one of your guys?
I mean, I have respect for the man. I again, as a person who loathes Star Wars, I don't think I don't think I have the largest spot in my heart for him that other people do, like Bazinga Bros really do.
Right.
But of course, Sandlot was a big movie growing up as a Gen Xer. I mean, probably High School Musical would be the equivalent for you, being a millennial, but he was a big part. Well, Sandlot too for you, but I do think that he was a big part of our childhood. I mean, Field of Dreams, obviously, such a huge movie. great baseball movie. But, when someone like him who's so iconic dies, it is sad. But then there's
Here's
also a
what I'll
part of me that's like, I thought he was already dead, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Here's what I'll throw out there that may work as our best memory of James Earl Jones. I'm looking at his filmography, and I can't say I quite remember everything about this movie, but he's listed as playing Darth Vader in 2006's The Benchwarmers. So that might be the best combo because he's playing his iconic Darth Vader character, but he's not playing it in a Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's
And that's, of
playing
course, Snyder.
Yep. Let's see if you can name them all.
Spade.
Yep.
And Hader. John Heater.
And John Heater. And now this person does not play one of the titular bench warmers, but one of the stars of this movie is one of our all-time faves. Do you remember who the other big star of the bench warmers is? Along with Spade, Schneider, Heater, James Earl Jones, it's also a vehicle for
man or woman?
All man. One of the manliest men.
Oh, wow. Why am I blanking on that? Not Leota. No.
I mean,
who? Give me one hint.
Well, when you go to see the bench warmers and you go up to the box office, you would look at the tickets there and you would say, that's the ticket. You would say, that's the ticket. In honor of
Don Adams?
John Lovitz.
Love
it. Stars of the bench warmers. Yes. And you would say, that's the ticket.
That's the ticket. Don Adams said that at first in Get Smart. Didn't he?
I can't say that I'm a Get Smart historian. I'll be honest.
Well, that's because you're a millennial.
Other than, of course, the version that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson co-starred in.
That's so millennial. You will, man.
So the bench warmers, I think that is the way to remember James Earl Jones, from this cameo that I don't remember being in the movie, but apparently he did the voice of Darth Vader in the bench warmers. And while we're on the bench warmers, because we probably are not going to spend that much time on it in the future.
Well, until the anniversary, of course.
Do you know how much the bench warmers made domestically?
I believe it was sort of a hit.
It was a hit.
Did it make 56?
It made $59 million total domestic.
59.
59. So the bench warmers a hit.
Pat, I was close. I said 56.
Very close. Very close. I mean, for a David Spade theatrical vehicle, it also could have been 11 million total.
Mm-hmm. But I think you had Napoleon Dynamite when that still mattered.
Yes. That was probably the bigger key. Yeah. John Heater was third billed, but he's probably a bigger draw in the bench warmers than definitely more than John Lovitz was, for sure. Yeah. So thank you for that email, Jason. Jason sent us another email. This one is huge boots on the ground information. We just got this 2 hours ago from Jason. My God. So Jason says, hi, guys. Me and the kids went to see Transformers 1 sneak peek on Saturday, and if anything, our tribal chief underplayed how good it is. It's clearly meant for 9 to 12-year-olds, a little slaps to keep it light, but not pulling away from the darkness. They pull a Lion King moment in there, and I thought some of those wee ones were about to cry. Good stuff. Rough demos of about 40 people. One family was African-American, 2 Gen X African-American women, 2 families speaking Spanish, rest Caucasian. A good spread for a preview, I think. Almost everyone brought children. The theater clapped when it ended. I know the sneak peeks are super fans, but everyone seemed really happy and were chattering when it ended. Hopefully this converts into good word of mouth. No idea what the box office will bring, but I'm hoping for the best. Transform and roll out. Wanna be, oh boy, Jason. Wow, a lot to unpack there, Clayton. Great email from Jason. So does that shape your perception of this Transformers 1 opening? I think next week. Is that opening?
Yeah. I
That is
think yeah.
Yeah, that is
Yep.
opening. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is opening this Friday, the 20th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Jason said something very interesting in there, is that super fans. I know previews are for super fans. That is true. You are more likely to love this movie than not if you are a super fan. But
Okay.
super fans also are finicky. They're
Mm,
also very judgmental. So
right.
there is a level of, they would be the harshest of critics as well, especially
Mm,
with nerd culture, which I would say
mhm.
Transformers is under nerd culture at this point. It's transcended from kids buy these toys cartoon to having a nerd culture bent to it.
Okay. You don't think was it ever frat culture? Do you think the Michael Bay Transformers era crossed over into frat culture? Were there
Yeah, the Megan
posters in frat?
Fox.
Yes.
Well, I mean, because of Megan Fox in the first two movies or whatever, I do think there was some frat interest, of course.
Right. And you had Kelsey
I
Grammer in those movies as well, I think. Yeah.
big at the frat houses. I mean, there's
Yep.
Frasier posters all over the frat houses.
Yep.
So I think that the fact that this word of mouth is good is going to be positive for this movie. The fact that it's a movie you can bring your rats to, that
Mm.
guardians might actually enjoy this movie, and it's not just for rats only. If
Mhm.
this has that level of rats love it and want to see it multiple times, and guardians and parents are not turned off by it and almost
Mhm.
might like it, that is very positive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, Transformers, when you think about it, came out in the 80s, and people who were young in the 80s or even in their 20s in the 80s are old now.
Yeah.
And so this is a movie that could do really well with oldsters too.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm positive about this. The one thing that's bumping me, of course, is Chris Hemsworth's involvement in this. I'm seeing his face in marketing. I think they need to just not do that. Like, don't show this guy. People don't want to see him. They might want to hear him because he has a familiar voice. And if they can masquerade the fact that he is Chris Hemsworth, then I think that's positive. I think they need to pull back on showing him physically at all.
so we will really delve into this movie on our next episode, the weekend preview. Transformers 1 is going to be open next Friday. So much to dig into there. The
Mhm.
Hemsworth of it all is the biggest question mark for that movie, perhaps. We'll
Mhm.
get to that on the next episode. Do want to touch on that we're getting to this a few days after he sent it, but we did get another boots on the ground school survey from Javier, from the great
Yes.
Javier. Uh,
Yes.
one of the reasons to be optimistic about just the future of box office and humanity in general is young Javier does these college surveys, asks his fellow students what movies they're excited for. So Javier writes, I'm back with another school survey, this time for movies coming out in September. A little late with this one, able to get some solid results. The movies were Beetlejuice, Speak No Evil, Transformers 1, The Wild Robot. Beetlejuice got the most check marks, but Transformers 1 and Wild Robot were close behind at second and third, respectively. Speak No Evil was easily last.
And we saw
So
that with the demos. We saw that
we,
with the demos. The college kids don't give a shit
they
about
do
James
not
McAvoy.
care.
Sorry.
Um, I don't know if it's about James McAvoy. I think if James McAvoy was playing the stabber, and his movie took place in a apartment with 5 roommates, and I do think if Speaking of Evil was a movie where there's 5 roommates and one of the roommates invites one of the other roommates to come over and stay in their room, that could have been something that younger people could have related to. I don't think it's about James McAvoy. I really think that the home ownership was the big problem for young people
Mhm.
in that movie. Um, So yeah, those are the emails. Thank you, of course, so much. Email us at theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. We love getting your theories, your predictions, your boots on the ground reporting. You spot a NASCAR car that is designed to look like a movie. We love seeing that. So email us, theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. Also, final call for getting to be any kind of part of our cold open video for the tour. Here is the most simple thing you could do. Get a video of yourself. You just say, I'm a wannabe boy. Or you say, I'm a wannabe girl. Or I'm a wannabe person. And just send me that email. Send us that email, theboboyspodcast@gmail.com.
Stand up and be counted. Stand up and be counted.
So send us an email of you saying that direct into camera, and that's it. And then you just you put it in the mailbox, you set it and forget it. Mm-hmm. So email us that video clip, and the next day or two, when you hear this episode, you got a couple of days, email us, theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. And of course, we are on social media at the BO Boys Pod. We're currently on Twitter X. We're currently on TikTok, and Instagram is coming soon. Clayton, it's got to happen. It's got to happen. So, Christopher, we will talk about that very soon, and we will get that set up. The BO Boys big unveiling on Instagram is happening very, very soon. So get ready for that. Mm-hmm. We're on YouTube, and we ain't going anywhere on YouTube. We are going to be there for the long haul. Hey, guys. We are YouTubers, and subscribe to the BO Boys YouTube channel. If you're only listening to podcasts, you're only getting part of the story. You got to see it to believe it. You got to see us to believe us. So subscribe to the BO Boys YouTube channel, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. The live tour. We are now less than a month away from the first live show, Los Angeles, on October 8th. Scott Mendelson, Jeff Bock, Nick Turner from Killer Raccoons Part 2, all going to be on stage with us. Gigantic show. Clayton, before we got on the air, we were planning out more stuff for this LA live show.
I mean, I don't usually do this, but guys, you can't miss this. If you're in LA, you can't miss this. This show is going to be so great.
Yep.
We have so much fun stuff. We have videos, we have games, that's on top of what we normally do, which you love, huh? So come see us live.
Yep.
I'll take the shades off for people if they want pictures. If you want a picture with my eyes, you can have my eyes. Another thing I never do.
Wow.
Never take the shades off.
I didn't even know that was going to happen. We were going to see Clayton shadeless in LA. So
these fans get the sockets.
Wow.
And what's in them? The baby blues.
Amazing. So live show in LA, October 8th, link in the show notes. Of course, New York City, October 22nd, Bread of the New Flesh, Tony Zara, Sean Donnelly, talking Venom 3 is coming out that weekend. So that's going to be a giant show. And of course, November 16th in Boston, KIRK Minihan. That is good. That is how you cap off a tour. That's
it's a good thing we're doing the other shows before that one, because Boston is going to be so insane. I might not make it through.
Oh, very, very, very possible. The Boston show, the live show, is the last BO Boys, because I think Clayton may explode from how big that show is.
Yeah.
So that'll be great. So yeah, I think that's it. I don't have anything left, Clayton. I think I said what I'm going to say.
Well, you said it all, Pat.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't think there's anything left to be said.
No, definitely not. I'm out of here.
Except for until next time.
We'll smell you at the box office.
Nailed.